This is the Predators season recap show here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. We are live with you from the Game Nashville studios on this Wednesday night. Your three play-by-play voices together for the next hour. Max Herz from Preds Radio with Willy Daunic from Preds TV. And the voice of the Preds, Pete Weber. Petey, great to have you in studio. We wish we were getting ready for a home playoff game tomorrow night.
That would be fun.
But instead we hang out here. And we got a lot to recap on the season recap tonight.
In a very brief period of time.
Terry Crisp will join us at the bottom of the hour at 6:30. And Willy Daunic will be with us for the next half hour. He's already warm. He's been on the air for 3 hours.
I'm good and warmed up. Yeah, I'm going for the next couple of innings here. I'm stretching it out. Old school, like back in the day when pitchers pitched 9 innings. You don't see that very often.
No, you don't. So you're going to be Steve Carlton tonight.
Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, we have a lot to recap. It was one of the most eventful seasons in Preds history, Pete, especially amongst the non-playoff years. Preds got off to a really slow start, then roared back, finished up with 40 goals, 2 40-goal scorers, and just outside the playoff picture. What do you make of the journey that the Predators took us on this season?
Well, I make that it was much more fun of a journey after Thanksgiving. And that was a tremendous difference, to be certain. And then the fact that they were able to make difficult decisions necessary for Barry Trotz and the others in management as to whether or not they were going to try to shed some contracts. They did get rid of some people like Michael McCarron, like Cole Smith, like the young defenseman who went to Colorado, and he's probably very happy right now because I'm looking at the players who are no longer with the team, who are in the playoffs, and they're probably enjoying themselves right now and not thinking about this one iota.
I think there's a pretty good bet that one of those 4 guys, Cole Smith, Michael McCarron, Michael Bunting, Nick Blankenberg, ends up in the Stanley Cup final.
Yes.
One of those teams that they're on is very likely, I think, to make it there, but only time will tell. And so I do think that if you look at the whole process, Barry Trotz's goal to get younger, play meaningful games, they did achieve that. It was just a very strange way that they got there. But I think we all, if we sat here the Monday or the day after the Monday 8-3 loss to Florida, where they had gotten back from Sweden and they still weren't getting any traction, they dropped to 6-12-4. I think we were all thinking, boy, where is this going? This could be disastrous. Are they going to change the coach? Are they going to be in the running for the first overall pick? The thought of them going into last Monday with a chance to make it to the playoffs was probably not on anybody's radar, let alone the most optimistic person that I can be. Sometimes I don't think I had that thought. So a full credit to them for making those games relevant. It's a true testimonial to their belief to be able to come out of such a deep hole.
Oh, yeah, to go through 81 games like that was unthinkable, absolutely unthinkable at that juncture you were mentioning after coming back from Sweden. That was just, you talk about a low point. That was that.
Well, it was on Tuesday, November 25th, that gathering after a dead, silent Predators practice on Bridgestone Arena ice, that the team got together and said, we're not going to tolerate this anymore. We're not going to let our coaches coach for their jobs every single night. And I think where the Preds got to at the end of the season, as you said, Willie, it provided an unexpected level of confidence in the organization going forward. With how the young players came up at the end of the season and established themselves, Steven Stamkos redeems himself after an ineffective first year with the Preds with 42 goals this season. Philip Forsberg adds 40. And the Preds proved a lot about what it's going to take for them to be competitive going forward.
And I think that's probably the biggest question for whoever ends up being named the general manager, working with the people he inherits, is how close is this team to being what they were for the last almost 60 games, right?
Yeah.
Because if you look at the last 60 games, and you heard Steven Stamkos and Barry Trotz and really everybody echoing this at the exit press conferences, they're top 10, top 11 in the league if you look at that, now the first 20 games count. The first 22 games, 6-12-4, whatever that is, those count. So how you start the season, avoiding the bad start, is going to be a big question in the offseason. That's a trickier one to answer. But the real answer as to where to take the roster is, what do we think of the team in the last 60 games or so?
Yeah, after an 8-13-4 start, that was brutal.
Yeah. It like you said, Max, in Detroit, it started. Justus Annunen got the big win against Detroit the night before Thanksgiving. They turned around and had Thanksgiving in Chicago, had the big togetherness in the hotel, beat the Blackhawks the day after, and then started to win each week. That's right in there is where they had the, hey, we can't get this all back in one week.
Yeah.
So we have to win every week. There was a 5-game winning streak in there, but it's not like they won 11 or 12 in a row.
No.
They were pretty consistent in how they went about it all the way to the end. So, again, big questions, I think, where to go, because there's plenty of people that think they should take a step back to take the 2 steps forward. If you ask Steven Stamkos and that veteran group, they want to roll it back out, and they want to hope that this young nucleus of prospects, ranked 5th in the Athletic, will collectively get better, and that will elevate everybody else to the next level. That's what you have to hope for.
And I'm thinking, since we have so many question marks still, not knowing who is going to be given the keys to the building, given the keys to the team, what sort of direction they want to take.
Right. Because if you heard Steven Stamkos, he's like, hey, I talked to the management. They said we're going for it next year. We were like, wait a second.
Yeah.
There is going to be a new GM. Does that person have a say in this? What if they completely think differently? So these are the questions to be answered.
Well, I think that final few months of Barry Trotz's general managerial tenure before he officially retires from an incredible 3+ decades of coaching and managing in the NHL, he gave the league one last push, one last overachieving team under Barry Trotz's watch. I think, Petey, a good way for the original Predators coach to go out.
Certainly was. And I'm thinking back what it was those early years and that one night. And Barry even talked about it at one point this year during one of our intermission interludes upstairs in the first aid room, which is also known as the Mike Lang Memorial Bathroom at Bridgestone Arena, where we talked about how that one game in Detroit, he thought that Craig Leopold was on the trip to fire the coaches. And then all of a sudden they rallied in the third period and came up with a 4-3 win on a tip by Scotty Walker of a Dan Hamhuis shot from the right point. And that might have been, when you think about it, what really turned this whole franchise around.
And I think Barry Trotz, knowing that he's been in those shoes, probably gave him a little more patience with Andrew Burnett when a lot of people were saying, hey, this isn't working. Do what everybody does, and that's replace the coach. He said, no, I think the coaches are doing well. It's too easy of an answer just to say change the coach. He had faith in the coaching staff, and I think he was vindicated for that.
Yeah.
And I think had he not gone through that experience that you just referenced, probably a couple in Washington, maybe even a couple for the Islanders, where he's the guy everybody's saying, hey, it's time to get rid of Trotz. Showing patience can be a good way of pulling out of it. So we're talking about fun moments of the season, Max. What jumps out to you? So the most fun moment of the season.
To me, it was Roman Jossi's 1,000th game.
Okay.
It was such an incredible celebration. The first Pred ever to play 1,000 games just for us, and an incredible win on top of it with a Steven Stamkos hat trick against the Senators in January. To me, that was my favorite, but it's not even as much about the game. It was about the warm-up and everybody wearing Roman Jossi's sweater and us getting to do something that we had never done before in Smashville. And we're going to have it again in a couple of years. Philip Forsberg will get to 1,000.
Yep.
But for it to be the first time, I thought that was so much fun to look back on Pred's history and be a part of something special here.
So that was the night that Stamkos had the hat trick in the come-from-behind game against Ottawa?
January 22nd.
That was Roman Jossi's 1,000th?
Yep.
See, I had the Stamkos come from behind. They were down 3-0 in that game. They scored the next 5. Stamkos had the hat trick. A great, great win. I had forgotten that was the game 1,000. Now it's a no-brainer. We had the same one. I just didn't know it.
Oh,
now I got to come up with another one.
My favorite was still the St. Louis game, where Stammer had a pretty big night as well.
That was the 4-goal game,
that was the
right?
4-goal game. That was where he tied the team scoring record for a game that happened. The first time it happened was an overtime loss in Calgary, and that was Eric Nystrom with that.
Yes. And then Barry Trotz didn't play him in the 4-on-4 overtime,
right.
which he always chuckles about.
I think what Barry Trotz chuckles about the most was he thought a very missed chance when the team was in Florida and Chris Mason couldn't go. He popped his groin coming out onto the ice to start the game, and all of a sudden, making his only start as a Nashville Predator was a former first-round draft choice who did not, let's just say, did not have a very good game. I will not give out his name now to protect the innocent. But then forced in as the backup emergency goaltender was defenseman Jamie Allison.
Yes.
Who had last played goal when he was 5 years old. And we kept, it got to be 4-0, 5-0, 6-0. We would do close-ups of Jamie on the bench.
To see how bad does it get before they put him in there.
Yep. And he looked greatly relieved when they all skated off the ice and he never had played it.
Yep, they stuck with the kid. He didn't make another start after that.
No.
It's too bad. I'm thinking of other, just the journey of Steven Stamkos alone. Like, there was a lot of great stories. Another 40-goal season for Philip Forsberg.
Yep.
But the journey of Steven Stamkos was probably the most special thing. These games that we're referencing, he had so many big ones, but the consistency and the adapting of his game to what he had to do to be successful for this team, I thought was just remarkable to watch. And I cannot imagine the value it has, the influence it has on the younger players that are going to be the key to the next 5 years. This pool of prospects, they're just starting to get there. The Kemmels, Svechkov, even Evangelista, who's been around a couple years now. But
Matt Wood
and Reed Schaefer, these guys, they had 6 rookies on the roster by the end of the season. Just absorbing what you see every day from guys like Stamkos and Ryan O'Reilly and Josi and Forsberg, that's invaluable. But Stamkos' story, all these great names that we saw him pass on the journey, getting to 600, then passing Bobby Hull and guys like that, just something to watch.
And he passed Patrick Cote pretty quickly.
He passed him last year. He actually passed him last year.
He passed him when he was a rookie.
Yeah.
42 goals for Steven Stamkos, tied for the third highest single-season goal total in Preds history. We will continue recapping the Preds season and talking about what's ahead coming up next. Pete Weber, Willy Daunic, and Max Herz with you. This is the Nashville Predators season recap show. I want to give a big thank you to our sponsors of Preds hockey on our season recap show. Thanks to our sponsors from Assembly Food Hall, Tennessee Brewworks, and Ponce Law here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Welcome back to the Nashville Predators season recap show here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. My name is Max Herz from Preds Radio, along with the voice of the Preds, Pete Weber, and Preds TV voice, Willy Daunic. We heard from the Preds players, along with head coach Andrew Brunette and retiring general manager Barry Trotz earlier this week on Monday for the Predators' end-of-season interviews after getting close to a playoff spot, but falling short with a record of 38, 34, and 10. Willy, you've been talking about it all day on the radio this week, all 3 days. What stood out to you from those exit interviews in Smashville?
I think the conviction, really to a person, that they believe that this team is worth keeping together and trying to get back to the playoffs with an idea that they could be successful in the playoffs. Because I think the notion has been for a while that, hey, even if you make the playoffs, can you really win in the playoffs? But I just heard a lot of passion in the voices of guys like O'Reilly, Stamkos, Josi, that they really do believe that the team that they were the last 2/3 of the season is who they are. And that's going to remain to be seen because, every year is different. No 2 years are exactly the same. So who's to say that the 30-somethings who guys like Stamkos, Josi, when he was in the lineup, O'Reilly, can stay as productive next year? We don't know. We don't know if Luke Evangelista is on the rise and can keep building off of his career season this year, or might he take a step back? Matt Wood, really encouraging season where he starts the year 20 years old, turns 21. Is this a springboard to something big, or is he going to step back? Nobody's going to know for sure. There's always surprises in the league. We're watching the Philadelphia Flyers and the Pittsburgh Penguins right now. Those are two teams that before the season I don't think a lot of people had in the playoffs.
No, the Flyers are playing their first home playoff game in 8 years.
Yeah.
Right now.
And I think if you think of Elliot Friedman, who comes on our station every week, he made the joke all summer long. There's 31 teams trying to get to the playoffs, and then there's the Pittsburgh Penguins. Well, the Pittsburgh Penguins have home ice advantage in the first round with a team that has a collective nucleus older than the Predators' nucleus. And that's saying a lot, right? Because the Predators, veterans, they lean so heavily on those guys.
Yes.
So I keep coming back to the same thing, and that is, can Kemmel, Schaefer, guys who haven't even gotten here yet, like Tanner Molendyk, can those guys really raise the collective bar and take the slack off? But I think that was the thing that jumped out at me most, is the optimism coming out of the group.
I'd like to see Svechkov keep going upward.
Sure.
He seemed to be doing that down the stretch. And then you get down to, as you say, Molendyk. I'd like to see Gibson have a significant camp as well. On
and
the blue line.
Milwaukee's starting their postseason, so they'll be in the spotlight there to see if they can make a good impression.
Once again, where you last ran into them, in Winnipeg.
Right. That was a great night up in Winnipeg, watching them in the stands cheer on the Predators. And they'll all be back in camp next year trying to make an impression. Zach LaRue is another guy that I thought took a good step forward after the first half of the season was completely taken away because of injuries. And so I thought it might be a lost year for him. But I think by the end of the year, you're thinking, okay, this guy looks like an NHL player that could have a good role.
To me, the biggest story of the season with the young players, Matt Wood at center for the final quarter of the season. 21 games there, and now you would be dumb not to have him as a top six center from the drop next season.
I think that was something that, and this is mostly basically a quote from Barry Trotz. He said it was out of necessity that they did it, because when they traded McCarron, they didn't really have a lot of options there, so they just tried it, and it ended up being a blessing, hopefully, that sticks. Yeah. Now, we know a journey can be, it's not always linear, right? Can you just pencil him in next year and say he's the number 2 center and you're going to lock him in for 82 games? We don't know.
No.
But he showed a lot of promise there. He's got some unique things that come out, I think, when he's playing center that you maybe didn't see when he was playing on the wing. Just his ability to see the ice, the ability to use his unique range and reach to find the right angle to make a pass, to connect dots.
His reach was incredible.
Yeah.
I thought. Yeah.
And he's a very good shooter when he gets loose, and so he can shoot and pass. So I think there's something there. That's but how good, right? Is he a 20-goal guy? Could he be a 30-goal guy? Is he a guy that runs your first power play eventually? These are all questions that we have. You know, there are guys that, like we've had a lot of discussions, guys, about what built the best Predators teams. Who were those guys? You take 2015 through 2019.
Yeah.
Stanley Cup final, President's Trophy, some division titles, playoff series wins. That team was not loaded with high first-round picks. Ryan Johansson was a high first-round pick that they got in a trade for
another high
Seth Jones.
Pick.
So that's the one, right?
Yep.
Other than that, Roman Josi, second-round pick. Pekka Rinne, eighth-round pick. Matthias Ekholm, third or fourth round. UC Saros, third or fourth round. Craig Smith, second round. Victor Arvidsson, third round?
Yes.
Something like that. So they found collectively a lot of really good players. Even Shea Weber, second round, swapped for PK Subban. Right. These are all guys that were very, very good, but not what a lot of people are saying is, hey, you got to get a top 5 pick if you're going to be really good. Yeah.
Not generational, but very, very effective.
Petey, what stood out to you from exit interview day?
Well, the fact that I was messed up on the schedule and I couldn't get there, that stood out to me.
What'd you do?
I forget what I was doing, but I was otherwise distracted.
Okay. Well,
Probably listening to our show.
Yeah,
that's
that's
where I
Oh,
was.
yeah.
Right? Yeah.
can I ask you to read out of your legendary Preds record book that you have here?
What do you want read? I mean,
Well, I already
you want to
told.
do game by game? You want to do?
I already told you my favorite page. This is a
The
giant
shootout
document that Pete keeps. My favorite page is the document that chronicles every single shootout attempt, both for and against, in Predators history.
Yep.
And
That-
the result and where the puck went.
And who was the goaltender and how well did they do? Yeah, that was all fun.
I wonder. I'm trying to remember myself. I don't know if you can recall this, Pete, or we have to use your
Okay.
documents to look it up. But the very first year of the shootout
Yep.
was after the lockout, right?
Yep.
And it was Paul Correa
Beating Anaheim in the first game.
beat Anaheim. It was Anaheim the first game.
Yeah,
I didn't even
the first
think about
shootout
that
game.
connection. Yeah, the shootout game. But that was the first one, right? And
Yep.
and Correa was really good in the shootouts. But that was a very memorable night. Like we got this is new. The shootout. There's no more
Yeah.
ties.
I mean, the first shootout.
So that was the beginning of your document.
yes,
That first
Well,
game.
that was. And then there was the shootout in Los Angeles, where they had to clarify the rules because Jeremy Roenick double hit a
yes.
puck, and they counted the goal.
I remember that too.
So that resulted in a huge meeting with the NHL war room, and that's not to be allowed anymore. But JR did it.
That
He
did.
cheated.
It's in the document.
Yeah.
It's in the document. It's all documented.
That will be played, Pete's reading of the document, at an to-be-announced late-night hour here on 102.5
we
The
will.
Game.
We will do it. We will stream it.
Yeah. But you are not going to know when it is. You're going to have to be ready at any time to listen to it. Well, Willie, this is where we say goodbye to you.
Okay.
You've been on the air long enough.
Do I get the complete game? I guess I get 7 2/3 because I
Yeah.
started at 3. I didn't get to 7.
Tell me about what's going on at Denison.
Well, right now in Granville, Ohio, we are waiting on a long weather delay. It's got to be going on 3 hours now.
Wow.
Denison, number 1 team in Division III baseball, 29-1, playing DePaul, who's won 10 games in a row, a good conference battle. Denison wins the first game of the doubleheader. The second game has been paused in the top of the 7th with the Denison Big Red leading 7-6. The pitcher of record is young Willy Daunic. So we're
All right.
anticipating either we want to bag this whole thing, just bang it, and Daunic will get the win, or we've got to resume and the Big Red's got to stay in the driver's seat here. So we get the W.
All right, well,
That's
Willie,
what we're looking for.
Willie has a busy night of staring at
Staring at
an
nothing.
empty
Yeah.
turf field.
Speaking
on
of
his
streaming,
computer.
I'm watching just a baseball diamond where rain is coming down. There's no people in the picture.
Should Rick Camp come up at some point?
If Rick Camp comes up, that hopefully he's coming up for Denison and
Yes,
not
yes.
for DePaul.
Right.
Oh, that'd be perfect. All right, Willie, love you. Great
All
job
right.
this year. We'll
Thanks,
be back
guys.
soon.
Always great working with you guys.
you, sir.
It was memorable. Not every season ends the way you want it to, but this I will remember this season for sure. The trip to Sweden,
Yes.
the Steven Stamkos, some of the stuff we chronicled. That's why you love sports, right? That you have memories like that.
And maybe a very significant memory has to be the first game in Stockholm, where Philip Forsberg scored
Yes.
the goal right in front of his mother's seat.
Yes. And where it looked like they might lose 1-0, you're like,
Yes.
oh, here's another painful game where they can't score. He scores, then Stamkos scores in overtime. That was a great moment. Great moment.
Well, we say goodbye to Willy Daunic, and we will welcome in the legendary voice of the Preds, Terry Crisp, for an interview coming up next. Pete and Terry back together for the next 15 minutes for our Predators season recap show presented by our proud sponsors of Preds Hockey. Want to send out a big thank you to Red Spirits and Wine in Bellevue, Franklin Motors, and the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. Thank you for your continued sponsorship of Preds Hockey, and thanks to you for listening to 102.5 The Game. Back with Crispy after this. Welcome back to the Predators season recap show here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. My name is Max Herz, along with the voice of the Preds, Pete Weber. And Petey,
We are hoping
your old buddy Crispy,
he's going straight to voicemail.
he stood us up.
Yeah. It's not the first time such a thing has occurred, unfortunately. So we were going to be – you gave me a list of 1 million questions to ask him, none of which now would be appropriate. So what do we do, Max?
Well, I do want to add one of my favorite moments of the season, which was not on the ice, was back in November when we put our second class into the Predators Golden Hall of Fame, and the class was Pete and Terry. That was a lot of fun.
Thank you. It was a lot of fun, and it was even better that it was a Calgary game here. So all the Calgary people were around, including one whom Terry had coached to a Stanley Cup in '89, Lanny McDonald. So, yes, that was a great deal of fun. And going through everything prior to that, you know something, November 1st, doesn't that seem like that was like 5 years ago?
Yeah.
I mean, it really does. So let's see what happens. I've got to share something with Ryan Porth here, who is asking me for a number. Ricky, don't lose that number, and we're going after that. But that was so much fun, and to have Lanny there and being alive. Lanny, you might know, left the All-Star game in Toronto a couple of years ago and had a heart incident in the airport in Calgary once he got off the plane from Toronto. Thankfully, there was somebody there who could save him.
Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah.
Well, that was a special day back on November 1st. And now, Petey, the last thing we got to get you is that Foster Hewitt Award into the Hockey Hall of Fame, and I will be writing in every year.
Speaking of NHL Broadcasters Association, did you get your ballot and turn it in for Jack Adams?
I did. I voted for the first time.
Good.
Yeah, very proud to do so. Are we allowed to say who we voted for or not until it comes out?
No, we may.
Okay. I voted for Rod Brindamore.
And he was not in my top 3 because I thought there were so many this year.
I think I know who you voted for.
Who?
Lindy Ruff.
Yes, I did.
How did I know?
I don't know. Number 2 for me was John Cooper, who I think is an absolute shame that he's never won it with great coaching jobs. And maybe this year, turns out to be the best in the regular season with his cast of characters all injured. And then number 3 for me was an ex-Predators assistant, Dan Muse.
All right. I think a good trio for you.
Yep. And I also was heavily considering Martin St. Louis because I think he's done a very good job with that Montreal team.
Yeah. I had Brindamore first, Ruff second, and St. Louis third.
Okay.
So we had 2 overlaps. But
yeah.
I don't think you can say it's a crime that John Cooper didn't win and then put the guy who's going to beat him ahead of him. You're not helping the case.
Well, he's getting 3 points then. So Lindy gets 5. Oh, somebody's trying to call me. It looks like it's Mr. Crisp.
Tell him to call the radio station.
Hello, Crispy. We're live on the air. Okay. We're on the air, so I'm going to have our man give you a call now. Thank you. These are the things that happen in the world of Pete and Terry that many people simply might not be aware of, but that's just what happens.
I think they are aware. You guys are very predictably.
The fun things with Terry on the air and on the road when he was just learning how to use his tick-tick, which is his euphemism for his computer. When he was just learning how to manufacture all the things he had to do on that, was that he would call me once we got to the hotel, and I'd just pick up the phone and go, okay, what room you in? I'd go to the room. Okay, here's the first thing we got to do. We got to plug it in.
It's a good first step.
Yes, I always thought that was a solid first step. So he should be calling in here. Are you calling him? Okay. Unbelievable. So we were talking about this shootout spreadsheet. So Paul Kariya scored the first 2 times on the shootout, once beating his former teammate, J.S. Jaguar, and then at Phoenix doing the job there on what happened with young Mason was the goaltender of record in that one. So here was, the first year, the Predators, and again, this is 04-05, and clearly the free agent acquisition of Paul Kariya was huge in all of that. Kariya that year was only 5 of 7 on shootouts. 5 of 7.
Pretty good.
Yep.
We're going to take another break here. We're going to put our heads together to get Crispy's tick online because I think Pete may be at fault here. And we're going to find out if that's true.
Okay.
This is the Predators season recap show. A big thank you to our final set of Predators sponsors for their support this season. The Tennessee Wildlife Resources Association, Twin Peaks, and Parman Tractor. Thanks to you for your continued support of Preds Radio and another season of Preds hockey. Season 27 in the books. We promise that Terry Crisp will join us coming up next for the final segment of the show here on 102.5 The Game. Welcome back to the Preds season recap show here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Terry Crisp is not very good at using the phone,
Terry.
We're learning, and now Pete's just going to talk to him on his phone.
Yes, you did, but we're on my cell phone and not on the air. Yes, call 7. Okay. Just a minute. Let me turn my mic off.
Let's see if we can get Crispy. Until then, Petey, you want to make some Stanley Cup predictions?
Well, I want to say that what we've seen so far is Pittsburgh just imploding, though they're up 1-0 now in Philadelphia, and the Flyers, well, Martone will he'll probably kick something onto his stick and then shoot it into the net here at some point soon. But it's hard to pick against Colorado, as dominant as they have been. And it's very difficult for me to do that. But I don't see, Edmonton has a good matchup with Anaheim for their sake, but I don't see them getting to the final again. I just don't.
So who you got?
So I would say out of the West is going to be Colorado. But out of the East, and this is the most difficult pick of them all, I think that the guy I voted second for Coach of the Year, I think Tampa gets there, if they can get past Montreal in this first round.
And who you got?
No, I think Tampa gets there. Oh, to win the Cup overall? Colorado.
All right. I've got Dallas over Carolina.
Oh, really? Okay. Now, Carolina, this has been something for them to be certain this might be their year. This might be their year.
With all the carnage in the West?
Oh, yeah. That's right. And that's a good way of putting it. Carnage in the West.
I think Terry Crisp is finally ready to come on the show.
Is
Crispy.
he?
Gentlemen, where have you been? I've been phoning everything. And are you guys in a phone booth? You got to be in a phone booth together, you doughheads.
We might be. We might be.
Petey, I thought I taught you better, son. I apologize.
Apology accepted. Now, how are you doing thinking about the season that has just ended for the Predators and continues on for the balance of the league?
Probably the biggest thing is that for the Predators is it was a roller coaster year. Holy Lifgard. You start out, you're in the hole, then they dig out of the hole, and then we sort of drop back into another one. And you and I, we've all been in hockey long enough to know that it's sort of after a while it catches up with you. Consistency, and then the guys hit a stretch at the run and just missed it. So I think, Pete, all in all, over the season, I was happy with the whole thing because we stayed in the running. We gave our fans something to cheer about, something to hope for. And remember, a long time ago, you and I used to say that one thing we have to do each year is give our fans hope.
Yes.
Bona fide hope. And this year we did it, come right down to the wire for a couple of points, and the guys just kept pounding away and getting back in. So, yeah, I have to go and say yes. It was what we needed.
So let's think about things in the past now, Terry. Let's go back. Do you remember what it was like leaving Columbus and knowing that Steve Sullivan was coming here? The deal that was made that night. The team lost one of the rare games in Columbus in their team history. And yet the Steve Sullivan trade had everybody about as far high in the sky as you could get.
It was when Stevie came his first game, right?
Oh.
Yeah, that's the one thing, Peter, that I still love, and you and I chuckle about it. What do you have? Tell our fans, because you called it.
He had a hat trick. He had a hat trick basically all on the power play, and he had 5 points in his first 3 games with the team. You talk about an immediate impact. I'd have to say that David Poyle was very happy with that particular trade.
One thing you knew about Stevie Sullivan, he played hard, but he endeared himself to the fans in a hurry. And you and I were laughing. If my memory's a little wrong, he had about 3 shots and 3 goals.
Yeah, that was it.
And it was a hat trick. So tell me how many guys can say they went to a new team, first game, and take 3 shots and get a hat trick.
I don't think anybody else can claim anything better, I'll tell you that much.
Well, we got to enjoy it.
Yes, we
did. That was for our fans, thanks to Stevie.
And that was a game, against San Jose, that he came up with that one. And that really was what powered the team to its first stretch of play that allowed them to make the playoffs. So that was...
We were looking for a goal scorer,
yes.
And obviously the little pack of dynamite that Stevie was.
The Timmins Tornado.
He proved to do that for us, so everybody in the long run was very happy with it, let's say.
Fair enough to say. So what have you thought of the young players that have come in and had a chance to make an impression and truly have made an impression on the team this year?
I like their attitudes. And the one thing I do like is, and it's hard. It's hard for Andrew Brunette as a head coach and for the rest of them to figure out when you're moving bodies in and out like we had to with different things happening. But everyone that came up from the minors or they brought in new wanted to make this team better and gave what they did have better to give it. And I think in the stretch run, I'm going to just use this phrase, the new names that we brought into our lineup showed energy, and they showed that they wanted to make this and wanted to make the team and wanted to give our fans something to cheer about down the run. So watching that one and watching those guys come in, and don't forget, Pete, they got to come in, they got to settle in, they got to learn all these new, you don't learn new plays, you don't learn new breakouts or that, because in your whole hockey, the ice surface hasn't changed. It's still 200 by 85.
We can say that now.
Well, what they have to learn is, just a little bit of the, not the idiosyncrasies, but how each guy moves where he is. And that takes a while. That just doesn't come overnight.
No, it certainly doesn't. And the good thing is the system that Carl Taylor has them playing down in Milwaukee is immediately translatable here to Nashville. So let's see how that works out, and let's see how guys now, for example, a guy whose junior season just ended, because otherwise he still has another year of junior eligibility. Brady Martin is now with Milwaukee, and I want to see how he progresses there. I guess I'll be on that AHL website.
Good, great, because everybody's high on him, and I love it, Pete. But I've been in hockey so long, so many times, and after the draft, etc. Excuse me. I just don't want to happen like a lot of the kids. You put the whole onus on him, that he's the golden child, that he's the given, he's the one that's anointed. It doesn't always work that way. So with me, it's let's give him a shot, give him what he has to do, and hope that it comes to what they all drafted him for and what he could be, because we've heard nothing but great things about this young kid. But there's the phrase, young kid.
Precisely. And then there's some other young kids that might be able to make an impact next year as well. All of these are part of the great unknown, Max. And how many unknowns do we have because we don't know yet, again, who is getting the keys to the boardroom?
Yeah, well, I wanted to ask you, Crispy, where do you feel like the franchise stands going into GM number 3 in Preds history?
It doesn't bother me in the least, because that's hockey. Hockey throughout the whole thing. We're not the first team. We won't be the last team to change coaches and change GMs and change players. And hey, I've been fired enough times to know that happens. And it's part of the business. And when you come into it, you accept it. And you don't like it sometimes, but that's the way it is. The players, when they come in, they know one thing: they earn their job. And if they want it, and they really want it, they'll earn their job.
Excuse me, as my computer hits my microphone. We were talking earlier, Terry, and you didn't get the chance to respond on when we were inducted into the Golden Wall. How meaningful was it for you that the team in town was the Calgary Flames?
Good shot in the dark on me. Yeah, because everybody knows that they were the team that fired me as their coach. You and Max probably sat there and said, "Let's ask Crispy this one and see how he floats with it."
Well, it wasn't secondarily that it would be the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Okay, being honest, and we're all human. It was sort of neat for me, Pete. I got to be honest. I told you this before, because not rubbing anything in, but it's just nice to send a message back that yeah, we had fun there, but I also still did pretty good after I left.
Yes, and you got to have a good chance to have a great conversation with a guy that you made the great decision on in, May of '89, to dress him, Lanny McDonald, for what turned out to be the final Cup game. My
captain. But you know what? Lanny was, he was our anchor. He's from Alberta. He was a legend there. And all the young kids and any older ones, but especially the young kids, Lanny McDonald was unbelievable with them, like the Flurries and the Roberts and the Newendykes and all the young kids that came in. Lanny took them under his wing. We had a lot of leadership, a lot of veteran guys there. But, yeah, Lanny was the one that worked with these kids. And, and sometimes he had to sit out some games because of these kids, but it never bothered him. He still worked with them, talked with them, lay with them. So, that in that respect, that's a coach's dream.
Well, Crispy, thank you much for getting to us here this evening. We appreciate it.
Not a problem. I like you guys, and you do have my address to send the check, right?
Yes, we do. And have the pizza delivered.
Yeah, or tell Mac that he could at least buy something at a restaurant for us or something, please.
Okay, I will.
Okay, guys, have fun. Stay with it. Enjoy y'all.
Bye, Crispy. Love you.
Bye-bye.
That is Terry Crisp, the man himself.
With some effort.
With some effort. It doesn't come easy, but we got Terry Crisp on. So
that we did.
Big thank you to our producer, Jake Steigelfest, for finally finagling Crispy, which is not easy to do. Pete's been doing it for almost 30 years now.
It's been something. It's been a great ride for me, to be certain. And happy that we were able to get some tidbits out of him for this show.
Yeah. Well, year 27 of Preds hockey is over. We will potentially have a new GM announcement sometime this summer. The NHL Draft Lottery coming up in a couple weeks.
Where they could get number one.
The Preds do have a 3% chance at the number one overall pick after finishing 10th in the lottery. Then the offseason, prospect camp, and all the usual summer happenings before we reconvene for preseason in September.
And a 2-game longer season.
Yeah, and an earlier start. So make sure you're on your horse for day one of season 28 next year. Petey, you are the man. Thanks for being so great to me, and thanks for hanging out with me for this special season recap.
We've had it fun. We've had a great deal of fun, I got to tell you. So why would I not want to?
Good. You weren't here by force.
No.
Let the record show. That is Pete Weber, the voice of the Preds. For Terry Crisp, Willy Daunic, our entire crew here at Preds Radio, thanks so much for listening to Preds Hockey. We will talk to you throughout the offseason and into next season on your radio home for the Nashville Predators, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Bis zum nächsten Male.